What's up, riders? Lucas coming at you from Miami. What I wanted to talk to you about today was the heart. In cycling and in a lot of athletics, people say, well, you can eat anything you want because it's like throwing wood into a bonfire, it just burns up. It doesn't really. It doesn't really work like that. There are athletes that have heart attacks because of the junk food that they eat. You know, my heart rate, resting heart rate, is typically in the 40s. It looks weird to the doctors, honestly, and the nurses taking the pulse. Blood pressure is very low. And, my cholesterol, it's at 120. Cholesterol of 120 when you're 50 years old is usually achieved with medications. I take zero meds for anything. I mean, the bicycle, as you guys probably know, is the cure-all for me, honestly. So with that said, keeping your heart rate low and then exercising, it's great, but as I said, it's not enough. And the junk foods, the bad foods are easy to avoid. So recently, speaking of heart rate, I hit a heart rate of 198. Okay, I posted that on Strava. So almost 200. Why can I do that? Because my pipes are clean. Is it good to get a heart rate that's almost 200 when, you're 50 years old? No, I mean, I don't recommend it. If your arteries are clogged and your heart rate is going at 3 beats a second, you're going at 180, almost 200 heart rate. That's bad because what's going to happen with that is you could have a heart attack if enough blood does not get to your heart. If your arteries are too small, blood won't get to your heart, and very serious. Tim O'Donnell, for example. So he's a world champion Ironman. Okay. He was in Miami right here. And he had a heart attack. He started getting chest pain, and then people came to his aid, and some paramedic knowledgeable realized, hey, buddy, this is a problem. You've got a heart attack. It can happen to anybody. There are people that, have heart attacks during marathons. So what the heck causes heart disease? What causes your heart to malfunction and arteries to harden and to get clogged? University of Michigan did a study, and they talked about smoking, obviously. They also talked about stress, though. And with stress, that if you're under a lot of stress, what happens is you've got the equivalent of smoking 5 cigarettes a day, at least, because of stress. Think about that. You smoke 5 cigarettes, 20 cigarettes in a pack. I mean, you've blown through, a quarter of the pack or more, depending on the type of stress. Your cortisol goes up. I mean, everything bad happens when you're under a lot of stress. When you've got a bad diet, what happens is you put your body under so much stress, and your gut is signaling your brain, and your food absorption is wrong, and you're not absorbing the vitamins, you're not digesting food correctly. So the thing about the diet is that diet is actually very important. Diet is even more important than genetics. And I'll tell you why. Because I know a lot of people who have come over here from Eastern Europe, for example. They come over to America. They become very successful. They start eating these rich, unhealthy diets. They start going to these parties, these functions, and bad oils, bad fats. And before you know it, they have heart disease. So people from the same family in Ukraine, for example, somebody's got heart disease here, and they're the same age, same family, same genetics, whereas the person over in Ukraine does not, because they're on the poor man's diet. They're on the diet of, Mediterranean diet. Some fish, some chicken, caught locally. The vegetables are grown locally. They don't have DDT, pesticide, whatever. They don't have these, oils that are added and all these antibiotics, to make the animal fatter, whatnot. One of the big problems with diet, obviously, is sugar. I love America. I love Mexico. I love Ukraine. But those countries, they do have a problem with sugar. We consume way too much sugar. Cancer loves sugar, feeds on it. The cells do, the glucose, cancer. Sugar is something that hardens the arteries, and sugar can raise cortisol levels, insulin levels, all kinds of things, which I can get into more, but it's kind of beyond the scope of this video. But the fact is, just sugar is worse for you than you think. And it's even worse because it's addictive and it gets you craving even more sugar. When I had my 50th birthday, that was a really cool experience because of the fact that I still feel very young. I still ride young, think young, have a lot of young friends, and just very youthful. And a big part of that is, the diet. Here, we're having pizza. So, I mean, technically, I am keto diet, by the way, which I'll get more into that. But you can break from that. You can break from keto. We had this whole wheat pizza with shrimp, but it was my birthday. What the heck? That's about as wild as I get with the risks I take on food, honestly. This is a graph of the good fats versus the bad fats. Pay attention to this because these are things that are easy to avoid, and often the good fats actually taste better. So omega-3s, not omega-6s, basic things like that. They're so good for you. With your meats, know where they come from. This is a farm that we ride through. We've ridden through many times. I get my meats, fresh from here sometimes. And the second best to, knowing the farmer, to, seeing where the animals graze in the sun and the naturally feeding, pasture raised, is to go to a place like Whole Foods. Every time I've asked Whole Foods a question, they've been able to come back with an answer as to which local farms they support, where, they get their meats, where they get their fishes from. Anyway, I'm getting hungry. That about wraps it up. So what I want to conclude with is to recommend that you run your life off of adrenaline and not coffee, and that you get your energy from fats and not from sugars. And of course, live fast, ride fast, and die last.